Discover the sinister secrets behind this haunting painting, 7 terrifying revelations exposed. Emily's heart raced as she unsealed a dusty box in her late grandmother's attic. The air was thick with age, and the shadows danced menacingly. What lay inside was more than just forgotten relics, it was a gateway to dread. The painted surface glimmered under the dim light, colors swirling like a tempest. What happened next would obliterate the normalcy of suburban life in Willow Creek. She felt that the painting was alive, bringing it home was a mistake, but who could resist such a haunting beauty? She hung it over the fireplace, a centerpiece intended to breathe new life into their small living room. As the sun began to fade, the colors twisted and turned in an otherworldly manner, casting grotesque shadows that seemed to slither around the room. Jake and Mia's laughter died at sunset, replaced by a palpable heaviness that hung in the air like smoke. Emily, reassuring herself this was all in her head, tucked the children into bed, whispering sweet nothings that rang hollow against the oppressive atmosphere. That night, whispers filled the house, soft yet unmistakable, curling into her ears like a malevolent breeze. Mom, Mia's voice shattered the silence. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clung to her blanket. Something's watching me. Emily's stomach nodded. Just a child's nightmare, she told herself. But as she reassured Mia, a chill snaked down her spine. The echoes of soft sighs morphed into panicked breaths, tightening the space around her. Days passed, and Jake's chatter turned into silence. The boy who once spoke with boundless energy now withdrew into himself, shadows engulfing his bright spirit. Emily sat at the dinner table, trying to draw him out, but his eyes held secrets too dark for daylight. The neighbors visited, all smiles and compliments about the painting's unique charm, but she sensed something lurking behind their eager gazes. Unease slithered down her spine. As the whispers crescendoed each night, her earlier doubts festered into dread. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That evening, Emily's blood ran cold. As she stood in the living room, shadows danced ominously, flickering like flames. She couldn't escape the feeling that the painting was a cursed watchtower, an unyielding connection to the hidden malaise of Willow Creek. The whispers intensified, morphing into agonized cries that echoed in her mind. When she rushed to check on the kids, she found Mia curled up in a fetal position, gasping for breath as though she were being chased. Desperation clawed at Emily. She pieced together fragments of dire tales about the town, the betrayal, the price of secrecy, the dark history embedded in the very soil they tread. But could she take on a lifetime of hidden sins? As the sinister painting pulsed on the wall, she felt the fabric of reality unravel around her, ripping apart the semblance of the life she once knew. Standing before it, heart hammering, she understood in that chilling moment the endeavor of confronting evil meant risking everything. The air crackled as a storm brewed outside, thunder growling with threats. The whispers crescendoed into screams, as her terror coiled tighter. Would exposing these shadows save her family, or would it put them deeper into the void? What lay beyond the surface of the painting? What other horrors awaited in the shadows? Emily stood frozen, heart pounding in her chest like a drum signaling danger. The storm outside raged, lightning crisscrossing the sky, illuminating the living room in brief flashes. Each crack of thunder felt like a warning resonating deep within her bones. She paced nervously, glancing frequently at the painting, its colors swirling almost hypnotically. The whispers had morphed into distinct phrases, words that gripped her, sending chills racing down her spine. "My beautiful children," she whispered under her breath, returning to Mia's room. Her heart raced as she pushed the door open. The girl lay still, a ghost beneath her covers, eyes wide with fear that seemed to pierce through the darkness. "Mia, honey, it's just a nightmare. It can't hurt you," Emily cooed, but her words sounded feeble even as they escaped her lips. "Mama, it knows our names," Mia breathed, her voice trembling. Those words twisted in Emily's gut like a knife. The hollow laughter of the painting echoed back in her mind, twisting the air thick with malevolence. She touched Mia's hair, desperate to comfort her, but as she did, a cold wave washed over her. The shadows in the room shivered, elongating as if they had a life of their own. Turning suddenly, Emily felt as if something had moved just beyond the periphery of her vision. A figure? No, just the shadows playing tricks. The storm outside howled, and another flash of lightning illuminated the hallway. Was there something there, lurking, just outside her view? "Mia, keep your eyes on me," she said, forcing a smile that felt utterly foreign. "We're going to check on Jake, okay?" Nodding, the little girl followed, her grip tighter than ever. The living room loomed before them, the painting pulsing ominously on the wall, a disturbing heartbeat that quickened with every passing second. Jake? Where was he? Emily turned to find her sense of security shaken. "Jake?" she called, voice wavering, echoing off the walls. Silence answered her. She felt a shudder of raw panic. Pushing through the heavy atmosphere, she approached the dimly lit hallway leading to the bedrooms at the back. They had played a game where they would pretend to scare one another, but nothing had ever felt this real. Every step forward morphed the air around her into something suffocating. Each creak of the floorboards echoed like a scream, then she heard it, a low, guttural sound, emanating from Jake's room. It was almost animalistic. "Jake!" she shouted, urgency clawing at her throat. She flung open the door, breathing a sigh of relief as she saw him sitting on the bed, staring ahead as if entranced. A chill washed over her. The room grew colder, shadows creeping closer. "Jake?" she whispered, but he didn't respond. His gaze was locked on something behind her, and slowly, dread curled in her stomach. Instinctively, she turned, feeling the weight of pressing eyes. The shadows formed shapes, grotesque and unnatural, a swirling parade of anguish, and at the forefront, a dark figure emerged from the depths, its features obscured but palpable in its malice. "Mama!" Mia's voice shattered the silence, cutting through the terror. Emily whipped around just in time to see Mia clutching her blanket, eyes wide and filled with unspeakable fear. What was happening? Why was this intrusion pushing through their lives? As the figure stepped closer, darkness wrapped around it, and Emily knew then that they were in the embrace of something truly evil. Every fiber of her being screamed to run, yet she felt rooted to the spot, fear paralyzing her. Then she remembered stories of the past echoed in her mind. Tales of spirits tethered to art, lost souls searching for something in the living world. Mama Mia's voice trembled, breaking her focus. What do we do? It was now or never. Would she fight? Leave it to fate? Could they run? But as she opened her mouth to speak, a grotesque smile formed on the figure, its laughter slicing through her thoughts like glass. The moment stretched, heavy, suffocating. "Help us!" The voice emerged from the shadows, wrapping around her like a shroud. Emily's heart raced. "What do you want?" With that question, everything changed. "Give us what you owe." The darkness surged around them, pulling them closer, suffocating their hope. What would the painting demand of her next? Emily's breath hitched as the figure loomed closer, an abyss of inscrutable intent. The room flickered, the shadows contorting like serpents eager to strike. She clutched Mia's hand, the small warmth pulsating in stark contrast to the creeping chill wrapping around them. "Help us!" the voice whispered again, echoing like a taunt. "You must pay for your ignorance." What could it mean? The flicker of hope dimmed with each heartbeat, every tremor in the word sending another jolt of terror down Emily's spine. She tried to piece it together, the fragments of old stories shared by her grandmother. A price for disturbing the eternal. What would the price be? "Give us what you owe." The figure echoed again, its form shifting, growing more defined in the play of lightning, a grotesque visage that bore deep sorrow, shadowed yet unmistakably human. "Mama, I'm scared." Mia whimpered, the tremor in her voice slicing through the tension. Stay close, Emily whispered fiercely, grounding herself in the moment. She was their shield against this vile darkness. Yet even as she tried to muster her courage, the painting in the living room surged with vibrant colors as if feeding off their fear, the brushstrokes dancing wildly on the canvas in a frenzy, mocking her with their malevolent energy. A memory flickered in her mind, one of her grandmother's warnings. Art binds the soul, it connects to the keeper, feeding off their essence. Should you unleash it, know the cost. Terror wrapped around her, squeezing until her lungs burned. What do you want from us? She shouted into the void, her voice resolute against the chaos. Your children, their purity, a small price for freedom. The shadows danced, weaving around Mia and Jake, whispering secrets. Emily turned toward her children, hearts pounding in unison, the collective dread creating a cacophony of panic that drowned out the storm. Run! She shouted, pushing Mia toward the door, but as soon as the command left her lips, the darkness surged forward, spider-like legs dragging across the floor, pulling them back as if the very foundation of their home had turned into a quagmire. Mama! Mia screamed, tearing at Emily's grip. Hold on! Emily growled, fighting against the dragging sensation. The momentum propelling her back was too strong, the air thick with despair, squeezing them, shredding their resolve with every inch they tried to gain. Then, in a sheer act of desperation, she thought of the painting. Its beauty was haunted, but what if? What if that beauty was also a weakness? Jake! Remember the stories! She yelled, pulling at every ounce of her memory. A flash of lightning illuminated Jake's face, wide-eyed, a mix of fear and realization. It can be defeated. He shouted, and in that shared moment, Emily felt a spark reignite within her. Gather your strength. She commanded, determined, pulling Mia back to her side. We need to turn this against them. In unison, the children locked their arms around her as they faced the approaching storm of darkness. What do we owe? Emily shouted, choking back the whirlwind fear, her resolve igniting as strong as a beacon. Tell me how to stop this nightmare. A piercing laugh erupted from the shadows, reverberating through walls, shaking the very essence of their beings. Only by sacrificing those you cherish shall the art be freed. They stiffened at the words, an icy dread curling in their stomachs. What if it were true? What if the darkness was just a mere reflection of the desperation they felt? Mama, what if we don't have a choice? Mia whispered, her eyes glazed with tears of confusion. But Emily realized then there had to be another way, a hidden truth buried within the darkness. As the shadows tightened, she whispered to herself, I want to let you have us. No matter the cost, they would confront the source. In that breath, a howl erupted outside, and the storm began to rage even fiercer, signaling an impending confrontation. Shadows crackled around, twisting, morphing into figures from the painting, cawing, flailing, ready to take what they demanded. As the darkness enveloped them, the world dimmed, but Emily felt that flicker of hope inside her, pulsed the will to fight, to protect. They could outsmart the darkness, but she needed to know, what did the painting truly desire? And then, the shadows whispered again, their voices merging into one grotesque harmony. Find the price. Emily steeled herself as the shadows surged forward, hungry and relentless. Would they uncover the terrifying truth hidden in the painting? What would they discover about the evil that claimed their names? The shadows surged, morphing into a kaleidoscope of twisted faces, each one contorted in anguish. They pressed closer, their icy breath wrapping around Emily and her children, squeezing the warmth from their bodies. She felt Mia's grip tighten, the child's heart racing against Emily's side, a rapid drumbeat of fear. What do you want? Emily shouted, her voice cracking like the thunder outside. The figures laughed, and the sound echoed in the hollow of her chest, a torment that made her want to sink to her knees. One shadow lunged forward, tall and skeletal, stretching impossibly long fingers towards Mia. Your essence, it will set us free. The voice was chilling, a harmony of despair mixed with bloodlust. Emily stepped in front of her daughter, instinctively raising her hands in a protective gesture. No! She screamed. You'll take nothing from us. As if in response, the room twisted again, contorted by the unseen force, the walls quaking as the storm raged outside. The painted figures danced back on the canvas, more vibrant, and seemed alive, almost mocking. A scream tore through the air, a hollow, desperate sound that felt too familiar. The price, the shadows sang, their voices intertwining in a chant. You must relinquish what you hold dear. Emily's eyes darted around, searching for something, anything that could help them escape. The painting's grotesque faces stared back, shadows flickering along the edges, inviting yet sinister. Each blink felt like a temptation. We must learn its secret. She shouted, gripping Mia's hand tighter, enough to keep her fierce and steady. Mom, what if they're right? What if Jake's voice trailed off, uncertainty creeping into his tone? No. Emily roared, the fire igniting inside her, we won't give in. Think, Jake. What did Grandma say about the art? It binds, it connects, maybe there's a way to sever it. The shadows flared, faces screaming, distorting with rage. You cannot fight what you do not understand. They shrieked, a cacophony of despair reverberating through the air. Emily's mind raced. Maybe the myths held an answer. Art can be a weapon, she recalled. It can be shattered. It can break. Then we break it. Jake yelled, courage blossoming in his eyes once more. Together. Cried Mia, determination cracking through her fear. They formed a tight circle, fear swapping for resolve, their heartbeats syncing like a spellcasting rhythm. Emily's heart thumped in her ears as she focused on the painting. If it bound them, could it bind their anger too? Rage seeped through her veins, fueling her voice as she yelled, "You will not take my children." In an instant, the shadows howled again, swarming, wrapping around them like tendrils, squeezing down on their throats and hearts. The figures lunged, intent on claiming their prize. Emily fought back, driving her essence toward the painting, her hands bringing forth wild energy. "I break you," she declared, and in that moment, it felt like shattered glass erupted within her fingers. A wave of vibrancy flooded the room. The colors from the painting exploded like fireworks, battling the encroaching shadows. Emily could feel the resistance in her bones, a violent clash as the light spread. Screams rose from the figures, disintegrating in the radiant glow. Yet just as hope flickered to life, the painting contorted grotesquely, a shadow darker than the night seeped from its surface, an embodiment of wrath resurrected. "You dare. You will pay dearly." As the blinding light dimmed, Emily's heart sank. The ultimate price loomed, the very question of their existence now hanging like a noose. What would they sacrifice? Would it be themselves, or the bond they had forged against the darkness? Each breath felt heavier, the shadows stirred anew. The storm raged outside, fierce and relentless, mirroring the chaos within. Emily whispered, "What must we do?" But then, a chill whisper washed over them. "Choose your shadows." The darkness tensed, almost as if anticipating their answer. What awaited them on the other side of that choice? The storm howled louder, and dread tightened its grip. As shadows twisted again, hungry for souls. Would they bend to the darkness or find a way to rise above it? The atmosphere crackled with dread. Each breath Emily took felt heavy, weighted with the threat hanging over them. She glanced at Jake and Mia, their faces were pale, their eyes wide with fear. Still, there was a spark of determination lingering in the air. The shadows pulsed, alive and ravenous. "Choose your shadows." The whisper echoed like a death knell, slicing through the chaos. What did it mean? Which of their fears were they willing to confront? Emily stepped forward, heart hammering in her chest. "No!" she cried, her voice a fierce shout against the swirling dark. "We choose to fight." But the shadows laughed, a guttural sound that burrowed deep into her bones. "Choices, they define you. Choose wisely, or be consumed." Their words wrapped around her, curling like smoke, suffocating. The painted figures began to shift, morphing into grotesquerie that matched the shadows' menacing forms. Body parts twisted unnaturally, limbs reaching, mouth stretching wide in unholy laughter. Emily's stomach turned. She could feel the fear clawing at her throat, then it hit her. The painting, it shows us what we fear the most. Jake, his brow furrowed, nodded. We need to face these fears together. He glanced at Mia, who, despite her trembling hands, stood her ground, her tiny chin lifted in defiance. I'm not scared, Mia declared, though the quaver in her voice betrayed her. Good, Emily said, embracing them both. We face our shadows. Together. The shadows, sensing the shift, began to move closer. You think you can defeat us? You are fools to believe in strength alone. It's your darkest thoughts that linger. Fight them. They hissed, their voices mingling into an unsettling symphony. Emily locked eyes with Mia and Jake, determination solidifying in her chest. Let us push past the darkness. We have to remember who we are. As if a leashed beast had felt the tug, the shadows recoiled momentarily. She focused on the painting, recalling the stories her grandmother told. Art can trap emotions. Let us turn it against them. Jake clenched his fists. Channel our fear into the painting. Let it be our weapon. The shadows screeched, realizing their plan. Emily and her children stood, hands linked, pooling their trembling courage. Together, they began shouting their fears, vulnerabilities spilling into the tempest. I fear losing you. Jake's voice rang out, shattering the silence. I fear being alone. Mia cried, her eyes reflecting terror. As they spoke, the shadows swirled, enraged, thrashing against their own essence of terror. Emily breathed deep, heart racing. I fear never being enough. Suddenly, light flickered from the painting, igniting in response to their pain. Colors swirled brilliantly, weaving around them, building a wall of vibrancy against the encroaching darkness. Fight back! Emily screamed. The more they vocalized their fears, the stronger the light grew, but the shadows wailed, their forms stretching and writhing, seeking to claw their way through. The ground shook beneath them, rattling the walls and yanking at the painting, desperate to reclaim their prey. Don't stop. Keep going. Shouted Jake, his voice firm and unyielding against the chaos. Then a piercing scream shattered the torrent. A figure emerged from the shadows, a specter, its featureless face frozen in a mask of rage. You think you can resist? You will pay the price. The painting rippled, distorted in response. The price echoed the shadows, building to a terrifying crescendo. Emily's strength faltered. The price? What would it demand? Would it take her children if they failed? Barely staving off despair, she steeled herself, crying out one last time. We are stronger together. This ends now. As the light exploded in a blinding flash, engulfing them in a cocoon of brilliance, the shadows shrieked in unison, their forms evaporating into the air, yet not without a final haunting promise. Sacrifice is inevitable. We shall return. The darkness singed at the edges of her mind, a creeping dread that refused to fade. The storm outside twisted and howled, shaking the very walls of their sanctuary. What lay on the other side of that confrontation? Would their bond survive the unholy flames, or would despair reclaim its throne? Through the flickering light, something scuttled in the shadows. Emily's heart raced once more. The battle was far from over. What had they truly unleashed? Blinding light enveloped them, but it felt fragile, like a candle against the howling wind. Emily squinted, trying to focus through the glare. Beneath the brilliance, the shadows thrashed, their angry whispers curling against her ears. The air was thick, heavy with the remnants of their fear. This was only a temporary victory. Is it over? Jake's voice trembled, doubt creeping into his words. They stood together, hands still clasped, breathing in sync, but the uneasy silence loomed large. Suddenly, the light flickered. The shadows, distorted by fear, twisted and morphed. An echo of laughter slithered through the gaps, mingling with a husky growl. sending shivers down Emily's spine. Fools, you think you've defeated us? The word seeped into her mind, each syllable dragging her back into doubt. No, she whispered, but the shadows were relentless. They surged forward, blurring the lines of light. Mia gasped, stepping back. Mom! Look! A form shifted in the darkness, a figure materializing from the swirling mist. It was familiar yet grotesque. It was her. Or rather, the version of her the shadows wanted her to see. With wild eyes, hair unkempt, and a gaping wound where her heart should have been, this twisted image of Emily reached out, fingers trembling, desperation woven into the fabric of its being. Mia, she said, her voice thick with suppressed horror. Stay behind me. But Mia's curiosity pulled her forward. Is that you? The innocence in her voice pierced through the terror, but it was quickly drowned by the darker aspect of reality. Don't listen to her. The shadows screeched, thrumming with the rhythm of hate. Face your truth. You know this is who you really are. Emily's heart raced like a caged animal. She felt it, the guilt, the fear of never being enough, the loneliness clawing at her. No. That's not who I am. I am more. More. The spectre mocked, eyes glaring with malice. Prove it. What will you sacrifice for your so-called strength? Something shifted in Emily's chest. Was there a line she wouldn't cross? Her heart thudded painfully as the spectre inches closer, fog wrapping around its feet like creeping vines. The walls trembled again. Rain lashed against the windows, creating an eerie rhythm that matched the pounding in her head. We need to break the connection. Jake shouted, his voice steady despite the threat. Mia was trembling, clinging to Emily's leg. Mom, what if it takes you no? Emily cut in, her voice sharp. We fight. Together. They clung to each other tighter, the warm glow of light wrapping them like a shield. This isn't just a painting, is it? Emily realized in a flash. It's a portal, a gateway to our fears. With renewed resolve, she pushed her own fear aside. We give our burdens to the painting. We release them. Release them? Jake echoed, confusion mingled with understanding. So the shadows can't hold us accountable anymore? Yes. She affirmed. We take our humanity back. Our fears lose their power. The shadows lunged, the figure of Emily shrieked, a sound that reverberated through the gallery, bouncing off the walls. You'll regret this. We will consume you. In that moment, they began to shout again, louder this time, drowning out the dark chorus. I fear never being loved. I fear failure. Jake took a breath, pushing through. I fear losing you all. Mia's resolve found strength, her voice the highest pitch now. The shadows hissed, tension warping the air. As their fears flowed into the painting, the portal shimmered, colors bleeding and swirling with a vivid intensity. But then the laughter shifted. A different tone arose, a voice that didn't belong to the shadows. What have you done? A familiar voice echoed, slicing through the air like a blade. It was clear, definitive. Emily's heart lurched. She recognized it. Grandma. Before she could process, a darkness erupted from the painting, spilling its insatiable hunger into the world they inhabited. The laughter morphed into a chorus of anger, the darkness thickening like a storm. What have we unleashed? Jake whispered, panic threading through his voice. The light flickered, desperation rising in Emily's chest. The shadows roared, this is just the beginning. The storm outside grew, relentless against their sanctuary. The dark shapes drew closer, twisting into grotesque forms, whispering promises of despair. What lay ahead was uncertain and horrifying. Emily clenched her fists, heart hammering. We have to fight. We can't let them win. But how? How could they confront what came next? A shadow moved silently in the corner. An unholy whisper filled the air, and something far worse than fear loomed ahead. What were the shadows hiding? The shadows gained life, pooling like liquid night, alive and seething. Each flicker of the dim light cast grotesque figures dancing on the walls, twisting what little sanity they had left. Emily could feel them pressing in, thick and smothering, ready to snuff out their resolve. What if we can't fight them? What if it just takes you? The words tumbled from Mia, trembling as if the very utterance could attract danger. Mia, I won't let that happen. Emily shot back, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. She forced herself to look at the painting, spectral colors still swirling, but now darkened with the weight of their fears. We're not alone in this. Jake nodded, fear reflected in his eyes but determination flickering, too. Together. We have each other. With steadying breaths, Emily stepped closer to the painting. It seemed to pulse with anticipation, absorbing their energy, their fears becoming its canvas. Let us turn our doubts into weapons. She shouted, and the echo bit back fiercely against the walls. Let us claim our fears. Jake rallied. No matter what comes out of that darkness. As they shouted their fears into existence, the shadows recoiled. But something deep within that hulking nothingness writhed in delight, sensing the power flowing uncontrollably toward it. Emily felt it then, the pulsing heartbeat tied to her own despair, a connection she hadn't noticed before. The laughter erupted again, this time sharper, mocking. Fears? You think you can conquer your fears? You hardly know the whole truth. The room seemed to vibrate and twist in response, the air thickening. Emily could see glimpses of shapes lurking behind familiar edges, faces distorted, accusing eyes glaring from the dark, filled with judgment. You're running out of time. They scoffed. Not today. Emily yelled, imagining her hope as a blade, cutting through the dark. She concentrated, ready to release her heart's heaviness, that ache born of guilt and angst. I fear she hesitated, shivers crawling down her spine. Of being a disappointment. A scream erupted, a cacophony of terror drowning the echoes around them as the shadows writhed in pain, a manifestation of her truth tearing at the tendrils of darkness. Look! Mia pointed, her eyes wide with a blend of excitement and horror. The depiction of Emily in the painting trembled, fading slightly as if torn between worlds. Jake shouted next, his voice a roar. I fear the past, the guilt of what I've done. Every syllable fell from his lips like shattered glass, slicing through the thickening dark. The shadows recoiled, but the darkness twisted tighter, its grip prepared to retaliate. Suddenly, a chilling whisper, foreign yet achingly familiar, intertwined with the darkness. Release me, it echoed around them, a haunting call that forked through their thoughts like knife blades, seductive and poisonous. M.O.M. Mia shouted, eyes darting to the edges of the gallery. She's here. Emily turned, pulse racing. The familiar figure loomed above them, not the twisted version from before but the essence of who her mother once was. Ethereal and glimmering, she flickered in and out, caught in the throes of something vast and sinister. Don't look away. The shadows hissed. She's yours, give in. Emily's breath caught in her throat. No. This is my fear, not my truth. The battle waged inside her as memories flooded, the warmth of her mother's smile, the comforting embrace that felt lost in the fog of memories now tainted by the dark. M.O.M. She screamed, desperation clawing at her. Fight it. The darkness boiled, pouring over the boundaries of the light, ready to devour them whole. What are you willing to sacrifice to save her? It taunted, feeding off their dread. Emily's heart raced anew. It was a gamble, but she had to make a choice. Could she risk it all to reach out? Together. She shouted, grabbing Jake and Mia. I won't let her fade. No one will take her from us. But what lay ahead was inching ever closer, a foreboding presence more daunting than she had prepared for. In that moment, the painting tremored violently, and a single word echoed, pulsating through the air. Dare, what does it want? Jake muttered, fear pooling in his eyes. The shadows whispered again, sinister and slithering. Will you dare to embrace the darkness? The answer hung heavy in the air. Would they step into the unknown? What additional terrors awaited them? Emily's heart thundered in her chest. The shadows around them pulsed with speed, hungry and expectant, as if waiting for their answer. Dare. The word spiraled in her mind, igniting a fear too familiar. A choice loomed, dark and magnetic, like the edge of an abyss. Together Jake said again, but doubt splintered his voice. The more they asserted their resolve, the deeper the shadows seemed to grow. Emily could feel the suffocating weight of despair that clung to her, a noose slowly tightening. What does it mean? Mia's voice shook, blending terror with confusion. What can we even dare? Emily's gaze darted around the dimly lit gallery. It felt impossible to focus on anything but the fluttering figure of her mother. It was too much. We can't give in. She yelled, pushing the fear bubbling inside her back down. Remember the good. Remember her smile. The shadows howled, twisting and contorting, their laughter a cruel symphony of mockery. Her smile. Pathetic. You can't run from what you've done. The darkness moved, slinking towards them, a wave of animosity crashing over the trio, seeking to drown their resolve. Then it happened. The figure of her mother flickered intensely, its radiance flaring before dimming to a chilling shade. Emily, help me! It was real, and yet distorted, the pain in its voice echoing memories that clawed at her heart. "Mom!" Mia shouted desperately. "Please!" But the voice that came next was a different tone entirely. "They will let you down, always." The shadows pulsed with glee at the words, each syllable igniting a fresh wave of anguish. What could they possibly offer you? Emily felt her legs tremble, her confidence teetering. Those words cut deep. Memories rushed over her. The promises made on darker days. You're stronger than they are, you know it. No. She screamed back at the shadows, forcing herself to breathe. I want to let you take her. This is not who I am. Each of her assertions sent tremors through the darkness, pulling away like the tide retreating from the shore. But a flash of anger ignited within it. What will you sacrifice to save her? Can you lose them? Your friends? Your past? The gallery warped as the shadows drifted like smoke, reshaping into images flickering from her heart, failures of integrity, moments where she felt like a burden. The constructs of her fears, maybe they really were true. Emily. Jake called, eyes wild with uncertainty. What if don't? She shouted through gritted teeth. She is still there. With a deep breath, Emily clenched her fists. The doubts screamed, but she quieted them. My love is stronger than fear. A shockwave rippled through the room, igniting a backlash that sent the shadows spiraling. The entity within the darkness recoiled, but twisted, coiling tighter in an effort to consume her. Dare to sacrifice your heart, it hissed, venomously coaxing. Embrace the void and save her. Emily felt the shift inside her, something balancing on the edge of decision. The painting tremored, and the likeness of her mother began to dissolve into the shadows. Frantic, she felt obliged, filled with a fierce love. But what would it cost? Mom. She screamed again. I want to let you go. What if you have to? Whispered the silence. The question stung like ice. Will you dare? Asked the shadows, a gatekeeper to everything terrible they feared. Just beyond them, the air shimmered, a doorway was opening, promising untold horrors. The minutes ticked by, heavy with dread. Each heartbeat echoed a choice that felt monumental. Could they confront the dark and still hold on to hope? Emily's resolve solidified. She faced the swirling abyss, holding Jake and Mia close. Together, they would find a way. But as the dark recoiled, a snarl rumbled beneath, growing sinister and feral. Your answer is beyond this threshold. What will you sacrifice? The painted image of her mother began to shift, ominous shapes forming around her. Shadows advanced, eager to consume, and just like that, Emily was faced with a decision she never anticipated. Determined, she stepped forward. "We'll brave it. Together." Just as the darkness lunged, their hands locked as if sealing a pact. What lay ahead? A confrontation, forging ahead into the unknown shadows. Will you face what lurks when the light is gone? As the door of darkness gaped wider, revealing nightmarish depths, a sense of inevitability washed over them. The question echoed: was the cost worth the risk? Emily plunged forward into the swirling void. A chill enveloped her, as if the very air had turned to ice. The shadows on either side roared, eager to swallow the light of their barely flickering hope. She felt Mia and Jake's grip tighten, their fingers laced firmly with hers, a tether against the encroaching darkness. "Keep moving. Don't look back," Jake shouted, almost lost to the cacophony that roiled around them. Through the din, Emily's heart raced, but it was more than just fear, it was a reckless defiance burning inside her. The shadows surged like a tide, but each step pulled them further into the abyss. In that moment, she understood that their memories, their love for one another, were what illuminated the way. Suddenly, the darkness parted like a curtain, revealing a scene veiled in vivid detail. A room from Emily's past materialized, the faint light casting familiar silhouettes. Toys lay scattered on the floor, a joke book half opened on the coffee table. A painting hung crookedly on the wall. It was a picture of her mother, vibrant, smiling, as if she was about to speak. "Emily." The voice echoed softly. "I've always been here." The warmth of it was unsettling, pulling at her heartstrings while the shadows hissed in anger, churning violently. "Don't listen to her." A chorus of voices spat from the depths. "You know the truth. She left you." "No." Emily shouted, feeling the words surge from her heart like a wave. "She didn't leave me. She loved me." As if slapped, the shadows recoiled, their anger sharp as daggers. But then, the scene shifted, more memories seeping through. Emily's teenage years, filled with haunting failures, resurrected like specters. Each moment unraveled her, dragged her back into her darkest days, the moments that had defined her. "You weren't good enough," the shadows purred. "You remember, no one came to your side then. What makes you think they will now?" Suddenly, she felt Mia's hand tremble in hers, a warning. "Emily, look out." Before she could react, a thick rope of darkness snaked around her ankle and yanked harshly, flinging her backward. The world spun violently, each memory a razor blade slicing at her skin. She gasped, struggling against the grip of shadow and despair. "Let her go," Jake shouted, lunging forward. But he was pulled back, something insidious clutching him from behind. Mia's wide eyes reflected terror, the reality of their situation crashing down. "We need to go. Now." She reached out, but the shadows slashed at her, each strike a reminder of past choices, past regrets. "Together." Emily screamed, binding her will to them tightly as they fought against the overwhelming force. The shadows screamed in fury, recoiling momentarily, but the fear was palpable, the dread of loss sinking its fangs into Emily's heart. With a rallying cry, Emily willed the love she had for her friends and her mother to rise, focusing every ounce of her strength into one unyielding thought: this isn't over. The shadows roared, a primordial anger that threatened to consume them whole. Emily felt the ground shift beneath her, the void pulsing with grotesque energy. She exchanged frantic glances with Jake and Mia before focusing on the scene of her mother, still encased in the luminous darkness at the room's center. "But what will it cost?" sounded the shadows, mocking, seductive. "Everything," Emily whispered, steeling herself against the wave crashing toward them. As Jake and Mia held on tighter, she took a step forward, heart racing and mind spinning, ready to sacrifice anything to save the last remnants of hope. Then, just as she felt a glimmer of light, the painting morphed grotesquely, the smile of her mother twisted into something monstrous. A chilling laughter erupted from the depths, reverberating around them. Welcome to your reckoning. As the shadows lunged, Emily braced herself, an icy dread washing over her with the crushing realization that they were not just battling darkness but something far more ancient and sinister. What awaited them in the heart of that terrifying abyss? Would they be able to reclaim what they had lost, or were they bound to perish in an eternal night? The shadows twisted violently around Emily and her children, their grip tightening as they faced a storm of despair. The darkness roared and swirled, mixing with the revelation seeping from the corners of their memories. Emily's heart pounded as the grotesque laughter cackled, echoing through the room like shards of glass. Sacrifice is what we demand. The shadows shrieked, their voices a chorus of hate. What will you give up to save your own? Emily felt the freezing tendrils wrap around her, suffocating hope. Her instincts clawed for escape, but then she glanced at Jake and Mia. Their faces were etched with pure fear, but there lay a spark of determination, too. They were in this together, and together they would fight. This isn't just about me or you, it's about us, Emily declared, her voice rising above the chaos, grounding herself in the strength of her children. No matter how dark it gets, we face it together. Suddenly, the grotesque figure of her mother shifted within the shadows, flickering. Emily, help me, it whispered, the voice threading together warmth and pain. But Emily steeled herself, that flickering entity had turned their love into fuel for destruction. No! She shouted, shaking her head violently. You're not my mother. You're a trick of the shadows, a lie wrapped in love. The darkness recoiled, as if struck. That declaration made the shadows twist in outrage, a furious wind whipping through the room. Rejecting love? How naive! We're not giving you anything, Jake shouted, stepping beside his mother, a fearless look in his eye. We choose to face our fears, not submit to them. Mia squeezed her mother's hand tighter. I'm not scared of you. She yelled, rallying with her brother. You can't have us. Their voices melded in a chorus of defiance, each proclamation causing a tremor in the darkness. Emily felt the warmth of their unity blooming like sunlight fighting against the suffocating night. The shadows howled as if losing their grip. Give in. It's your only chance. They shrieked. But with every word, the power of the two little hearts beside Emily grew stronger, lighting the way through the smothering darkness. Let us show them how strong we are. Emily roared, emboldened. Together, we bring the light. The painting behind them shimmered with the energy of their resolve, its colors trembling, as if recognizing their willingness to reclaim their truth. Thunder rumbled outside, mirroring their tumultuous energy as if the universe aligned to their determination. With their hands locked tightly in a brave circle, they pushed against the pulsing darkness. I am not my past. Emily cried out. I am not a failure. I stand with my family. I fear nothing. Jake bellowed, his voice rising higher amidst the chaos. I'm proud to face my fears with you. Mia yelled, her voice spirited, piercing the shroud of despair. With each declaration, a radiant light started pulsing from the painting, casting vibrant colors throughout the room and stretching toward the shadows. Whispered promises faded before the onslaught of their collective might, the shadows shrieked, recoiling into shapes unfamiliar, wrapping around themselves. The shadows howled furiously, you cannot vanquish us. You will suffer for your defiance. Emily and her children leaned into the warmth of their connection. We can't suffer because we have each other. They shouted together, unleashing the truth that had always defined their bond. In that moment, the twisted visage of Emily's mother flickered with sincerity and joy, undeniably bright against the iterations of lies. Rise, Emily, it whispered. Rise, and claim your love, your light. Suddenly, a dazzling explosion cascaded from the painting, flooding the room with a brilliant brilliance that shattered the shadow's hold. Each beam of light that shattered from the canvas devoured the darkness, burning it away like mist at dawn. No! The shadows screamed in rage, breaking apart and dissolving under the radiant glare. The grotesque forms twisted into dust, fading with anguished wails, while Emily, Jake, and Mia stood surrounded by a cocoon of warmth. As the last shimmers of darkness evaporated, stillness enveloped the room. The walls shook for just a moment longer, then fell silent. Emily exhaled, breathing in the sweetness of freedom. They were safe. The painting, once a harbinger of fear, now radiated with colors of hope. Sunny strokes of yellows and warm violets danced across the canvas. They hadn't just survived, they had triumphed. Mia stepped forward. Is she gone? Her voice held a hint of worry, glancing toward the painting. Emily placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. No, sweetie. I think it's finally restored. Grandma, she's free, too. Jake nodded in agreement. I think we did it. The echoes of torment faded, replaced by a peace that seemed to settle into every crevice of the house. With a newfound resolve, Emily smiled at her children. We've grown stronger. We'll always face whatever comes our way, together. Always together. As they joined hands once more, the world outside seemed brighter, the air fragrant with possibility. They stepped out together into the new dawn, ready to embrace whatever tomorrow might bring, but before they did, a voice whispered through the gentle breeze, a last message resonating from the painting's depths. Remember, shadows linger, but they only have power if you let them in. And with that, they moved forward into a new chapter of their lives, forever bound by love, courage, and an unbreakable light. You need to subscribe now to catch all the exclusive content we have coming up. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let everyone see how you felt about this story. Don't wait even one more second, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What do you think lies ahead for our heroes? And make sure you instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Thank you for it.